Well, first I'll call the meeting to
Is
order.
being recorded. This meeting is being transcribed.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. It's about 9:06 on what is today? February 10th. And while we're waiting for Bob to arrive, good morning, Patty. I will go through the
Good morning.
good morning.
Bob.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, there's Bob. Good morning. All right, let's go. John DeWolf,
Here.
Richard Swizak,
Yeah.
Rob Lewandowski,
Here.
DeAndrea here, Bob Doan,
Here.
Patty Maroney.
Here.
Good morning. Susan Mattern
Here.
and Ryan Thompson
Here.
and Bob Don, which I don't see yet, but so having called the meeting to order and the roll, we do have one item that involves Susan, which is the minutes from January 6th. Are there any addendums or corrections to the minutes? I take note to the item on second page, old business, when we discussed our decision to table some items from that meeting for further review. I think that's good to note. Other than that, I didn't see anything myself. Were any other observations, additions, or corrections?
I didn't see any.
If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented from January 6th?
Motion to
So-
approve?
Was that
Second.
Susan? And was that Robert? Or-
Ryan, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes from January 6th, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Just to be clear, I abstain.
That's right. Thank you very much, Ryan, from not present last week. And John DeWolf technically wasn't there either, so
I abstain, yep. So,
all right, that I think concludes any business that would involve you right now, Susan. So, and if you're so inclined, you may
Okay.
move back to business and we'll move on to our regular agenda.
All right. Well, have a great day, everyone.
We'll see you
We'll
next
see you
month.
next month.
okay.
Bye.
you, Susan.
Which will bring us to our regular agenda. And I will say at the outset, if I jump around and seem confused, I apologize in advance, but I probably will be confused. So the first item on the agenda is received correspondence, of which there is none other than applications requesting reconsideration. We don't have any correspondence sent that I'm aware of, and no old business other than applications, which we're going to review. I suppose we could do the easy stuff first, but in fact, I think we will. Let's go to page 3. We have an item which we'll discuss, I think, at the end on our review of the evaluation policy. That's one. It's going to come up, I think, during the discussions on applications today. So I'll hold off on that if there's no objection. So the next group of applicants that we have on our agenda, page 3, item D2, is candidates who passed the PE exam for CBT. It's a list of names, Archambault through Cisco, on page 3. There's a similar list on item D3 for those who passed the land surveyor exam using CBT, Lociabo and Ray, 2 applicants. Then we have a list of applicants for reciprocity, class 4. This month there's 64. Again, it always amazes me, but I think it's a consideration that I have is how applicants applying to Connecticut. I don't know that it really matters. I'm just curious as to why. I think it plays into some of the reviews that we're going to do in a few minutes, why it's important to be or seek licensure in Connecticut. I just think that the number is significant every month, and I find it interesting. But nevertheless, there were 64 applicants that have been reviewed by Jane to determine that they are consistent with our policy or qualifications, including experience and education and examination. So those are 64 applicants that have been reviewed and accepted. And with that, I think we'll just move on to our next item of agenda, which is item E, which is applicants for permitting Class 1 exam and credit Part 1. I reviewed the first three applicants, Arno, Carter, and Kopik. I found them all to have good experience following their degree. Three with bachelor's, one with a master's, but all of them have good experience, EIT, and education. So I move to approve Arno, Carter, and Kopik for Class 1 exam, credit Part 1. Is there a second to my motion?
I'll second.
I don't
It
know
was
who that
Rob.
was. I thank you, Rob. By the time I look up, I can't see who it was, but thank you. So all those in favor of the motion to approve Arno, Carter, Kopik, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed the next group of applicants, Crittenden, Darwish, Dowd, DuPont, and Hosley.
Dowd has a foreign degree from Dublin, which is equivalent. And based on that, I move that all five be approved.
Second?
Second it.
Thank you, Al. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Crittenden through Hosley for Class 1 credit Part 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Bob Doan reviewed Johnson, Colin, Marasco, and Oakley.
I make a motion to approve all four for permit Class 1 credit Part 1.
Second?
Second.
Thank you,
I'll
John.
second.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Rob Lewandowski reviewed Palma, Razani, Sheik, and Singh.
All four have good degrees, have their FE, and good experience, good minimum experience. So I recommend approval of all four. I'll second.
Thanks, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve Palma, Razani, Sheik, and Singh, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. And Richard reviewed Sidit, Tronfio, Olfson, and Waters.
I guess the only comment I have is that Waters graduated in 2020, but she didn't put anything on her application that indicated what she did for the first 2 years after she graduated. Because she only listed, her experience starting in July of 2023. So, and I guess she's been doing a lot of research, not necessarily any kind of, she's a fellow, her first job was a fellow for Innovations in Buildings Research Fellowship. And the employer is the U.S. Department of Energy Building Technologies Office. And then her second job was a fellow for Innovations in Building Research Fellowship for the Department of Energy Building Technology. So, and she has exactly 4 years, I guess, of experience. It's really more analyzing data than anything, but So I'm not sure, whether, that is anything that should be. It's just that she doesn't have anything for, from 2020 to 2023 when she started working, so I just thought that was strange.
Did she work under an engineer?
She was working under, her immediate supervisors were, PhDs. So they weren't really engineers. Hold on, let me go back to, she had some engineers signed for her, but I'm not sure whether this would be similar to, like an electric boat or, a Pratt and Whitney type of scenario. Yeah, everybody's kind of a PhD.
Well, is it something you want to have her fill in her first years of experience? Nothing wrong with asking.
Like you said, our application says, tell us what you've been doing for the past, since you graduated. And the gentleman before her was working,
If her undergraduate,
working.
yeah, if her undergraduate was in 20 and she went for a master's, you wouldn't be including that as experience. So she'd only have.
No, she didn't.
So
Yeah, she
it's
doesn't have that.
it's fair to ask what the experience was, unless it was just missing in the agenda summary. Do you want to take that
Right.
separate then, Richard?
Yes, yeah. So why don't we make a motion that we pass, I guess, Senate, through CEO, and Upson, are acceptable. Application.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does she need those 2 years to meet the experience requirement, the minimum?
The answer is yes.
No, but
Well, we do.
No,
You want
no,
to prove that she's had 4 years of engineering experience. Like, so I was trying to
But-
use the example, if she were in school seeking a master's, then you would say she didn't have her 4 years of experience. So we like to have 4 years of experience following the degree. Right now, the application doesn't indicate what she did following the degree.
But I'm sorry,
correct. She
Did-
doesn't necessarily need those extra 3 years for experience. But, like you said, again, she hasn't been working under a PE. It's really research work. And possibly, if John DeWolf looked at our her application, it might be a little clearer to him what she's been doing, but I'm not sure.
because it seems like the question is more of whether she was working under an engineer than what those missing 2 years were. Am I understanding correctly?
She's been doing something since she graduated, but we have on her resume evidence of only 2 years.
No, she has 4 years.
But then
She has 4 years. She's
All right.
missing, the first 2 years as to what she was doing when she first graduated.
So she's got 4 years of experience. She took 2 years and did nothing, traveled around the world. Does that count, or just as
Yes.
long as she's got 4 years?
That's the
I
point
would-
I'm trying to make, Al. I agree with you. The question is, just to clarify, Richard, does the resume indicate what she did after she graduated? You said she had experience listed since 2023, if I read you correctly.
Correct. She started in January of 2022.
Okay,
Yeah, then, yeah.
all right, so that's
Actually,
fine.
now that- All
If
right,
she's-
yes.
But-
So if
but
she's,
hey, my problem isn't that she lacks years. It's the experience doesn't sound like engineering experience. I don't care about the 2 years. If she has 4 years of good engineering experience, wherever they occur, I mean, she could have got married or whatever. I don't care about the fact that there was 2 years missing. What I care about is this experience, engineering experience that is acceptable to the board.
I mean, just as, I conducted research to analyze the disaster resilience of U.S. building stock. Specifically, I investigated county-level correlations of federal disaster coverage, FEMA, and other payments as portion of incurred damage to determine how county and hazard characteristics influence coverage levels. To do so, I collected and analyzed extensive data for all hurricanes that received presidential disaster declarations from 2008 to 2017. So, I mean, I'm reading this thing, I'm over there. I don't know if that's engineering or not.
I think you're assessing data and setting specifications. I think that falls under engineering, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, if it's FEMA, I would agree. I think it's
All right,
okay.
well, all right, so I'll make a motion and we accept all four.
Any further discussion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
What is the motion?
The motion is to approve Sinnott, Trunfo, Olfson, and Waters for class
Okay, okay.
one. credit
Thank
part.
you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carried. Sorry, I confused that a little bit. I understood that there was missing 2 years of experience, but that's all good. Let's see. I think, okay, now it comes to our list of class 4 license applicants. We are reviewing these applications just for the record. Because they're not model law engineers and they are not, they're not model law engineers. So I reviewed the first 3 applicants, Cosimano, De Napoli, and Doherty. I have indicated that my recommendation is to approve all 3. They all have a bachelor's degree. One was a technology degree, Cosimano, in October of 2006. He has the required extra experience, and he specializes in mechanical engineering, HVAC, and geothermal. De Napoli is also an engineering tech with a degree from Penn State in 2005. Currently licensed in New York, as was Cosimano. Again, he concentrates in electrical, HVAC, and electrical design. And Doherty has a BS in 1980 from UMass in civil. He's currently licensed in New Hampshire. His specialty is structures and trenchless excavation all over the country and world. So my motion is to approve Cosimano, De Napoli, and Doherty for class 4 reciprocity.
Second,
Thank you, John. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of my motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. John DeWolf reviewed. The next group, Ejanda, Fabrier, Ferrari, Gunala, and Halpin for class 4.
okay. Ejanda has a BS from the Philippines, which was NCEES set as equivalent. Let's see. Fabrier is a BS from National University, which has no deficiency, so that's equivalent in its review. Aragi, Farah Aragi is an Islamic degree, and it's missing biology or chemistry, but otherwise everything looks good. He has an FE, a PE, and an SE. Gunala is from Egypt, and he's missing some biology, it looks like. And he's missing, well, 10 hours of biology, chemistry, and 6 hours of gen ed, but it looks like a good degree, so I see no problem. So those are all foreign degrees, and I think I'm going to recommend them. Hal Penn, I'd spent some time on this. His degree is a accredited degree from South Florida. All but one of his PE licenses expired, but he's now doing work in Connecticut. And he had problems. And from what I can tell, North Carolina he had disciplinary action with North Carolina. And what happened is when he applied for his license, one of the recommenders, his ex-wife, had not renewed his license. So he got called up because one of them wasn't licensed because it hadn't been renewed. And he got in trouble one other place, but there's a long thing about how honest, and he's well reviewed by those who reviewed him. There's really no problem. It was a slip up. So I'm going to recommend all 5 for approval.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Al. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
In one of my meetings with the national events, I remember North Carolina sanctioned someone because they were from out of state and used their business card in North Carolina to suggest that they were licensed engineers. So they can be a little extreme, or, some discipline can be extreme. That was just a comment I'd offer.
Well, this guy looks really outstanding.
Yeah.
And it's just a problem with what happened with one not being licensed when he recommended him.
All right, thank you. So next group of applicants for class 4, reviewed by Bob Doan, Jagardar, Mahmoudati, McLaughlin, Mohan, and Moorman.
Okay, the majority of them are foreign degrees. Jagadar was lacking 10 hours in general ed, but it was looked like a really good degree from India. What's my next one? You pronounce this better than I can do. Mahmoud Badi has an Islamic degree, a BS in mining engineering, and has a master's from University of Kentucky and a PhD from University of Kentucky. And it is a equivalent degree. McLaughlin was missing 8 hours in general ed. It's a degree that was evaluated from Ireland, and I thought the rest of it was really good. Muhan was missing 3 hours in math and science and 2 hours in general ed. Also a good degree from India. Mormon had a Bachelor of Science in Architecture from New Jersey Institute of Technology, and he has a master's in civil engineering also from New Jersey Institute of Technology. He was non-model law because of it being a technical degree, and he had NCEES review it, and it lacks all they say is it lacks a 4-year engineering degree, but he has 15 years, 10 months experience. And so he qualifies under the technical degree.
Is this technical degree just architecture, or is it architecture and engineering?
Architectural engineering.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it. So I make a motion to approve all Was that 4 or 5? All 5.
Second. Oh,
Thanks, John. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Patty, just if you were listening to what Bob was noting about the extra experience when you have a technology degree that's covered in our current regulations. There's a discussion constantly at the national level with NCAAS as to whether or not there's some deficiencies in technology degree programs. So they don't put it in the model law category of evaluation, but nevertheless, by our regulations, they have extensive experience, which our regulations allow for as compensation from the lack of the actual engineering curriculum degree.
Thank
Rob
you.
Lewandowski reviewed the next group: Moreno, Novotny, Orazgali, Pepler, Schneider, and CO.
I'll go down the list one at a time real quick. So Marino has a foreign degree, NCS evaluation, met standard. So that one will be okay. Novotny, engineering technology degree, 12 years of experience. So that will be okay. Orazgali is a foreign degree, NCES evaluated, met standard. So that's going to be okay. I'm going to jump over Pepler. Schneider is a engineering technology degree, 17 years experience. So that's going to be okay. CO is a technology degree, engineering technology degree with 20 years of experience. So that's going to be okay. So going through my list for now, I'm going to recommend approval for Moreno, Novotny, Orazgali, Schneider, and SEO, and hold off on Pepler to talk about that person in a second. So I recommend approval of those 5.
Second.
Second. Is that Rob? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving Moreno, Novotny, or Orazgali, Schneider, and CO, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
So going back to Pepler, obviously not model law. That's why they're in this list. So I'm assuming not model law because he has a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and Ecosystems. He has a master's degree in MS in Civil Engineering. Both degrees are from UNH. He has 15 years of experience, but I'm not sure that makes a difference. I'm assuming he's non-model law because of the BS in environmental science. Anybody
So he
confirm that?
lacks the 4-year engineering degree. It's a science
Yeah,
degree.
I mean, I'm assuming a BS in environmental science is like a BS in physics or geology, right? That over the years that we've had this debate on these non-engineering degrees. So, and he does not have an NCES evaluation in the file.
You
So,
have the transcript?
we do, yeah.
So
I
you
didn't,
can look,
honestly, I didn't look at it because I think this kind of goes back to this whole broader picture of, you know, if we were going to consider his degree, in my mind, I would ask for it to be evaluated by NCES for consistency purposes. But I think this applicant speaks to probably our bigger conversation today.
I would agree, and I think it wouldn't be inappropriate to just hang on to it for a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I can either table it or, you know, officially table it or just hang on to it until maybe later in the meeting. whatever. I don't know where we're going with the rest of the meeting on that topic. So, I mean, let's hang on to it till later. Maybe
Right.
it gets resolved.
All right, so for now, I don't know if we need a motion. We'll table it.
Yeah,
Right,
temporarily.
we're not closing it today. All right. I think that's a good discussion. All right, which leads us to the next group of applicants for Class 4 reciprocity. And that is Sharma, Singh, Tronci, Vaz, Walsh, Weiss, and Wu, reviewed by Richard Swezak.
All right, well, I'll go down the list. Sharma had a degree from India and he was 8 hours short in general education, so I believe he's fine. 14 years of experience. Singh had a degree from India, which was equivalent, so he's fine. I'm going to skip over Transi and go to Vase. Vase has a degree from India and was deemed equivalent. Mr. Walsh had a degree from Rutgers in bioresource engineering, a bachelor's in bioresource engineering, and a master's in civil and environmental engineering. So I'm thinking that a bioresource engineering, I'm not really sure what that is, but it might be more towards, environmental considerations. So I believe that, with his master's in civil and environmental, he should be fine. Weiss has a degree from Central Florida in environmental. He's just not, NCAAF. So, but he has 25 years of experience, so he's okay. And Wu has a degree from China, and he's short, one, biology or chemistry course. So, and he has 24 years of experience. He has a BE, a bachelor's, a master's, and 2 PhDs. So he should be fine.
Is it, you
So,
said it's a science degree for the bachelor's? For Wu?
But no, it's in I guess mechanics. Let me look him up really quick. Hold on. Okay, let me go over here. He has a bachelor's in engineering mechanics,
Oh,
a
okay.
master's in computational mechanics, a doctorate in earthquake engineering, and a doctorate in civil engineering.
Okay, no, that's no problem. I misunderstood. But I'm good. There's one back there that sounded like a science degree.
That was Walsh. Hold on, let me open his. He has a bachelor's in bioresource engineering from the Rutgers,
From where?
and then he has Rutgers.
Is it an
Rutgers
engineering
University.
degree or a biology degree? That's the question.
Well, I'm not sure. It says a bachelor's in bioresource engineering. Hold on, let me look at his transcript. Rutgers.
When these questions had come up in the past, it was a matter of whether or not ABET had accredited the engineering program. So did ABET accredit the bioresource as an engineering curriculum? That would be the first question, wouldn't it?
Well, he started off in the School of Engineering, and and his major was civil and environmental engineering, and then he continued in the School of Engineering, but it's bioresource engineering.
Is it an
Yeah,
EAC?
It's in the School of Engineering of Rutgers.
What, do you have the on the front page is it EAC degree?
He says it's A by. Yes, A by
Okay,
EAC,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
That's
then
good.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, so I thought it was fine too, to tell you the truth. But okay. So I mean, so those 6 are acceptable applications. The only one left is Pronsi. And his evaluation, he's from Italy. He got his degree from Italy, and he was 8 hours short in the math and sciences and 7 hours short in the engineering.
7 hours
Um,
short and what?
Engineering. He
Oh,
only
dear.
has 41 out of 48 hours in engineering, and he has 24 out of 32 in the math and science. So he's short in, 2 courses or, in engineering. So he only has, 41 out of 48 hours. So,
21 out of 48?
no, 41 out of 48.
But he's also short in science, and he doesn't have a master's?
No. And looking at his application, in order to get, I guess, registered, he had to take this test 7 times. So twice for the fundamentals and 5 times for the principles. So he might be just a little lacking in terms of.
He doesn't meet the requirements
Right.
of a
I
4-year
mean,
degree.
NCES evaluated and probably said not equivalent, right?
Correct. Oh yeah, no, NCAS definitely said it wasn't equivalent.
My
Okay.
feeling is that NCES is way too lenient on their evaluations. I've got a couple that are just, that don't think they are equivalent, and they just count credits. So if NCES says not equivalent, then I think it really is not equivalent.
Right, yeah.
I agree with you, John. That's why I asked that question. I think they have a low bar.
Right, if A equals B. Okay. So you want to make a motion on Tronci separately, Richard?
Yes. So I'll make a motion that the other 6 applications be acceptable.
I'll
Is there a
second that.
second? Was that Rob?
Second. Okay.
All those in favor of the motion to approve Sharma, Singh, Vaz, Walsh, Weiss, and Wu for Class 4 reciprocity, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Is there a motion on Marcelo Tronci?
I'll make a motion that he doesn't have an equivalent 4-year A-BITE degree, so we deny his application.
Second.
Thank you, John. All those in favor of the motion to deny Tronci, Marcelo Tronci, due to a deficiency in the education curriculum as required by Connecticut standards. Is that right? Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion to deny Marcelo Tronci, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Hey, Tony,
Yes, sir.
can I go back to Mormon?
Yes,
I-
sir.
I incorrectly answered you, John, on the on his excuse me, from the Institute of Tech. I went back and looked at his architectural degree. It is not an engineering degree. And his master's, which is a master's in civil engineering, I just looked at his transcript again, and I don't think it corrects the deficiencies in his architectural degree. So I'd like to change my recommendation for Mormon. And thank you for bringing that up, John. To a no with lacking a 4-year engineering degree.
I'll
He has a
second it.
master's with structurals, et cetera, but he doesn't come close to the 48 credits.
Yeah, so, and that's under the evaluation by NCEES, counting credits, but you say they still don't add up to even the 48
No, they don't.
in the master's program.
In the master's, correct.
Okay, so I don't think there's a problem in reconsideration of a motion based on consistency. So the motion, Bob, is to deny
Deny
reciprocity for Gregory
Gregory
Mormon
Mormon.
due
Mhm,
to the lack of a qualifying engineering undergraduate degree.
correct.
And I'll
He is
second
li-
that.
Okay. He is licensed in New York, but
All those in favor of the motion to reconsider Gregory Mormon?
Quick question.
Yes.
Question. He's licensed in New York? Did you say?
yes.
The reciprocity that we consider is that they may be licensed in other jurisdictions. And the basis of all of our deliberations right now is that we have set a policy because we had no choice to be consistent with the model law of NCEES, which I've said before is an advisory group of engineering licensing boards. It's an advisory service to the engineering and surveying licensing boards throughout the country and other jurisdictions. And the basic premise of the licensure should be education, examination, and experience. When the undergraduate degree is not an engineering accredited and not an ABET accredited engineering curriculum, that's inconsistent with our statutes and policy and inconsistent with the model law. Other jurisdictions have provisions in their regulations where they deem it appropriate to waive certain elements or components of the model law. Connecticut,
My-
our board,
my
has chosen not to do that.
Okay, my question is, are there states that we definitely accept? And are there some that we have to reconsider? Because I'm just not sure on that.
Right.
Like,
What-
is there
what we're-
anybody else that's truly in line with our requirements? And because I would have thought New York
Right.
Well,
But
you know,
would be
just
very
just
consistent.
just as an example, Marcello Tronci that we just, did not approve. They, in terms of his school attendance, they say experience in lieu of formal education.
It-
So they don't really have that he attended an engineering school. Obviously he did attend something somewhere. But for the school attended, normally they would give, whoever gave him his degree. But in his case, they say experience in lieu of formal education.
Correct. And Patty, in our current regulations, which we have been intent upon trying to get changed for 25 years, there's still provisions for oral examination, and that's not what we do anymore. Those regulations were written at a time before licensure ever came to be. So the fact that an individual is licensed in another jurisdiction, we do consider whether or not they were evaluated on the same plane as what we are trying to be consistent with, which is a basic engineering degree taught by engineering faculty that provides a breadth of knowledge at the undergraduate level. And then after you receive that basic education, you gain experience and then prove that you are minimally competent by taking the national exam. So the fact that it was an individual, and we're going to see this in a few minutes to a greater degree, the fact that an individual such as Mr. Chauncey, licensed in Connecticut and licensed in New York, by oral examination, that's not sufficient in Connecticut. And that's what we
Okay.
labor
I'm
over
just wondering,
every.
are there any that we are truly in line with, just for future reference?
Yes,
If they had a license from Massachusetts, are we in complete agreement? And is there any such states that
right.
we
I
don't even
can address
question?
it.
That's more of my point.
Yes, I would like
Because
to
I would
address that.
assume New York was close, but do we have
Right.
any where we completely accept it just based on the licensure of another state?
I would address that personally this way. I have attended a majority of the national meetings. And in those meetings, we break up into zones. In the Northeast zone, there are, I believe, 21 jurisdictions, states plus some foreign entities, et cetera. So at any rate, I make it a I make it a challenge every year to just ask one more time in the forum, are there any representations here today that follow the model law, which is the three levels, right? Education, examination, and experience. And invariably, no one except Connecticut raises their hand because they all provide waivers of something. It's not
Okay,
universal.
that-
So the answer to your
that-
question is no, there is none.
Got it. That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Yes. So we don't have any any brethren who is striving to do what we are doing, which is to be consistent with that basic component of an engineering degree, which provides a breadth of knowledge. The problem that other states and jurisdictions face is it appropriate or whatever, I don't know what the term is going to be. I don't want to use the word fair, but is it appropriate to license someone who's proven to be expert in one field, but doesn't necessarily meet all the other requirements of the model law, being that you have an undergraduate degree? The example I want or like to make is an individual who has a chemistry degree, a science degree, not an engineering degree. He has a science degree in chemistry, and then proceeds to get a master's and a doctorate in chemical engineering and is a world-renowned expert in chemical engineering. Is he more qualified to be licensed than someone who actually then had an undergraduate degree that included soils and mechanics and thermodynamics? You see? So that's the issue before us, and it has been for a while, but it's going to be, we have to keep discussing it as to whether or not we're doing the right thing.
Well
And then-
said.
Thank you.
Was that the other
Thank you.
the other aspect of it is we see this, I've seen it, I don't know why, it just seems to be very prevalent. We see individuals with a physics degree. Physics, you're the other day we were watching the newest group of astronauts, and half of them had majored in physics. Seems to be a good correlation, right? Maybe physics is a great idea, a great starting point to be a structural engineer. I don't know. So you have a physics degree, 4-year physics degree, but you didn't have a couple of courses in soils or hydraulics. And now you're designing 40-story and 100-story buildings. Are you qualified to be a structural engineer because you studied physics as an undergraduate? New York says yes. Right now, Connecticut says you don't have an undergraduate engineering curriculum to your name. Therefore, you're not consistent with our policy and you're not consistent with the model law.
One of
To
the
me,
key aspects of accreditation for an engineering degree is breadth. You can't have design in just one area. UConn had great courses in design in structures, and you could get through with just those, but we got nailed because we weren't requiring students to get design experience in 3 different areas. And so that's where the breadth comes in. And what scares me today is the fact that so much is done with computer software, you can get away without having that breadth. But does that make you a professional engineer? And I would say no. You need the breadth. You need to have the bigger picture in order to be licensed as a PE, because our PE is not a PE in soils, it's not a PE in environmental or in structures, it's a professional engineering degree in engineering. So you want the people who meet that requirement to have the breadth. That's my problem with so many of these science degrees.
If I were to, I guess we might be starting the debate right now. Has anybody got an objection to that? So the debate that I come up with, John, is I don't put myself at the top echelon of engineers, right? I did have an undergraduate degree, and I had some courses in soils and hydraulics and thermodynamics and all that. So now I know that those aspects exist, and now I become experienced, and now I'm in charge of a major development, and I know that all these other disciplines are required. So is my experience at that point more important than my undergraduate degree? And when does the experience take over and override the undergraduate courses that you've never applied? And I think that's where I'm having a problem, continuing our policy without putting more weight on experience at this time.
Tony, that's an interesting thought, right? I mean, we have what's our criteria? Undergraduate engineering degree with 4 years of experience, and you can take the exam and pass it and get your license, right? But we've determined that if you get a technology degree, you need 10 years of experience to take that same 7. Should there be another criteria, maybe even more, 15 years, 20 years, something that allows that candidate, maybe with the physics degree, to get licensure here? Maybe there's another tier of experience.
Right. The engineers that designed the George Washington Bridge were not licensed. And the bridge is still there. Was that based on experience or their study of thermodynamics?
That's why they're constantly repairing it.
I would say the engineers for the George Washington Bridge had to do everything by hand calculation. So they could not skip steps. They had to be experienced. Their experience, they covered the whole project. Whereas today, as I keep pointing out, so much is done on the computer with software. How do you know the person who's using that computer software really does have a full knowledge of engineering?
But
And the 4-year degree is the way to evaluate, to validate that. And I doubt that the experience today can be equivalent to what a 4-year engineering degree has.
But when I take on a project and it involves the design of a structural wall, I know that involves analysis of soils, and it involves a structural engineer, and the structural engineer isn't necessarily the soils engineer. So I know enough to bring in the geotech and the structural engineer and rely on their experience. And what we've been saying is, okay, now you've got those 2 individuals or firms with expertise, but it still goes all the way back. Did those individuals have the full undergraduate accredited program? Truthfully, that's why I started the meeting saying, why are so many people wanting to be licensed in Connecticut? I don't know how it compares to New York, Patty. I don't know how many Connecticut licensees are looking for registration in New York. That said, there's no reason why Connecticut can't be more stringent as long as we're consistent. to me, that's the most difficult part. We are passing over some very qualified people. The other thing that I personally think of is if an individual is practicing and making those designs and he happens to be working in New York, if he comes over and is the lead on a project in Connecticut, and he is in fact the lead and the brains of the outfit, and I'm going to bring that up on one of the applicants, should we not have him licensed in Connecticut so that he is responsible for his work? And I think that's important also. If they are doing the designs, then we should make them responsible by recognizing their expertise and license them in some cases.
Hey, Tony, you asked that question, why are so many people getting licensed or applying for comity and licensure in Connecticut? I don't know this for a fact, but I do know for a fact that a lot of the large engineering companies have their models have changed a little bit where, I deal a lot with all the largest, let's say AECOM, WSP, they have offices in every state and they have groups of engineers in every state. But they don't just work in that state. It's almost like, hey, we got 50 engineers working for us in Connecticut, but Connecticut's slow. So they'll work within their organization to support projects in Texas or Oklahoma or Arkansas and vice versa. I'm constantly working with people from all over the country because all they're really trying to do, it doesn't matter where you sit anymore with a lot of these engineering firms. It's who you work for and you're part of an engineering team. And if you have quote unquote capacity, right? You don't have a lot of work on your table. Well, they'll, California or another state will pick those hours up and then you just cross bill your offices, right? So there's a lot, I think there's some importance here in being consistent because it's become a flatter country, I guess, globalization, but within the country, right?
Okay,
Globalization of the engineering practice within the country. It's not segmented by state as much
Right,
anymore.
So you I think then are in support of maintaining the consistency that we put forth, which is to just have this very basic low level, if you will, consistency. The starting point has to be consistent. And there's nothing wrong with that. I agree. There's nothing wrong with that. And we've been doing it and no problems. We had last week, John and I had that discussion with our legislative liaison, basically saying we want to make sure that we're on solid ground, that we have to be consistent and recognize why we're so concerned about getting the statutes updated to make it very clear that that's the bare minimum and you'll have to meet it to be licensed in Connecticut. Recognizing that certain individuals that are absolutely the most qualified in their field will not secure a license in Connecticut.
I definitely agree with the consistency. I definitely. And but the other problem I have, and I'll throw this out there, John DeWolf, I appreciate your perspective always. You've preached since I've been on this board breadth of education and the importance of that breadth, and I believe in that too. But I see a lot of applications come through that are, let's call it a little bit unique, right? Like marine engineering. I'll even put out there some of the electrical oriented engineering type of degrees and, even some mechanical degrees that are very specialized. And, their engineering degrees, they're ABET accredited and, all their experience is very, in a narrow path, right? In a narrow work area. But at the end of the day, we grant them a license to practice any engineering in this state, not just within that narrow path that they're a quote unquote expert, right? So like that marine engineer or that electrical engineer, I don't know off the top of my head, did they take a soils class? Did they take a statics class? Maybe, probably, I don't know. But we let those go through, right? and that's where I'm having at times trouble with consistency. We let certain specialty ones go through, but which are unique, but the bulk of them are in this other category. And if they don't have that quote unquote breadth, we stop them. I'm having a little trouble reconciling that myself.
My thought again is if you have the undergraduate degree, you have breadth, you've seen the different areas, you have experience as at least an undergraduate in design in some of the different areas. So you have a better picture of what the project should incorporate. Whereas if you just are a specialist, you really haven't seen that. And there's nothing wrong with being a specialist. And remember, we're not saying you can't practice in Connecticut. All we're saying is you can't be the one that signs the drawing or the design.
Right, and it's a fair baseline, right? The guidance provided by NCAAS to be consistent, that's one of the premises of NCAAS, make this consistent throughout, so we can just go across the line, Patty, and work in New York and say we did the basics, we're equivalent. On the other hand, we may be more stringent than any of the other groups in at least the Northeast zone, let alone the country. So we've set this policy to be consistent with the model law, bare minimum, breadth of education, engineering, figure out what's available, then go concentrate in your specialty and do it. Would we have any other opinion about this process or policy if we were a state that licensed as discipline specific? So you're a structural engineer, you can't be a hydrologist, but you have to understand hydrology to be a structural engineer. Otherwise, your scour will eliminate your foundation. I mean, they all have to go together, and that's why we keep coming back to John being adamant about the undergraduate degree. So we're going to miss a couple.
The only problem I have is that, when we have somebody who has a technology degree, and obviously they don't have the engineering, the depth of engineering, courses that you normally have. And we require, 3 additional years of experience. And when I'm looking at some of these evaluations, and the one I just did for Tronsky, I'm over there, well, maybe if I consider him as a technology degree, and he has, maybe 14 years of experience, between Italy and the United States, does that actually trump the fact that he's missing 7 hours of engineering courses? Or, so all of a sudden, when we start looking at, the variables that exist, are we being consistent that, maybe sometimes the experience does count more than the education, especially when you look at technology degrees versus the bachelor's of science type of, degrees. And, should that be weighed a little more than we have been giving it the weight that it deserves?
If it's an accredited technology degree, it has the breadth. So
I
the
think
breadth is there.
yeah, we have to believe that, and we have to rely on it. That's an accredited engineering technology program, and they, recognize it at the national level with NCAAS. There's still a debate ongoing as to whether or not. Only last year they finally, I think, agreed that you have to accept a technology degree and be done with it. One of the past presidents was constantly banging the table. Look at me. I've been running these huge jobs and I have an engineering technology degree. He's proof. But
Right.
it's still a debate. And yet those
Right.
people who are debating an engineering technology degree are granting a waiver of an exam. It doesn't make sense. Therefore, are we going to continue to impose our policy that if you don't have a qualified undergraduate engineering or technology degree, you're not going to be licensed by reciprocity in Connecticut?
I mean, what we're trying to do is establish a minimum standard, right? Like a minimum criteria. a minimum bar per se.
I believe so.
We have made exceptions in the past where a person who has got a science degree and then a master's degree, where the person has gone back and taken a bunch of undergraduate courses to fit in with that master's degree to get up to speed. But if they're all the courses are in the technical area, the same technical area, I would say that's not acceptable. But some have gone back and tried to get, so as an example, somebody's getting a master's in structures, they go back and they take some hydraulics and some geotechnical stuff in the undergraduate program to get up to speed. In that case, there's a reason for giving them a waiver.
Right. And I think, John, that's probably the cause of that, I think, is lack of advertising, if you will. Listen, if you're going to secure a master's in an individual specialized field, nationally, you should recognize that you should be taking some more undergraduate. But NCAAS hasn't been, in my experience, been pushing that. So we all come, well, I believe that you come back to the discussion that the education is a business also. So they design a master's curriculum to bring people in to concentrate in structures without consideration for this national exam, this national organization, NCAAS. That's not their concern about licensing, right? They're developing a program to graduate engineers with a structural expertise. They're not concerned about whether or not that individual came from a science degree or otherwise. That's my opinion.
I would
So
agree with that.
It all comes down to business. So
Tony, just
That's-
to keep talking about this, I have an applicant here, Paul Pepler, and we'll put his stats on the table here, right? He's undergraduate degree, a bachelor's in environmental science and ecosystems. And then he went on to get a master's in civil engineering. He passed the FE and he took the PE in the environmental concentration. And he's been working for
15 years, you said. Yeah.
15 years. Yep. 15 years in the environmental area. Half of that time for GZA, who's one of the most reputable geotech firms in the country. This, so he has chosen a path. Looks like he's doing real engineering work in a special area. And it feels like he should be somebody we approve. But at the end of the day, there's no way we can based on our current policy.
Correct. And that's what that's what I was alluding to before also. I said, when does proven experience, trump, sorry about that, the undergraduate degree?
I don't think
And
it does.
It doesn't.
And we had the same, remember the guy that came was a physics degree and he was one of the leading structural engineers?
Mm-hmm.
And we had to deny him. It was the same type of circumstance, just in the structural area. And we had to deny him. And again, I'm on board with being consistent, but I'm feeling like something might be a little bit unfair here in my mind.
If you don't mind me jumping in, I know I've said this before, but I'm just gonna say it again. I agree with exactly what Rob just said. You've got people who are clearly competent and capable and recognized by their peers, by other states, by other boards, by clients and everybody else, and we're denying them because they 15 or 20 years ago decided as an 18-year-old college student on a path that now in their 40s or 50s was, unfortunately, in hindsight, nothing they could do about, but it doesn't match up with the policy. And yet they're fully capable and fully competent. And I think that's
sorry.
And well, I just think that we're I understand the reasoning of having a breadth exam, or a breadth of knowledge. But I think that applies more to the people who are 4 years out of college, are very inexperienced, or they're still learning. And yeah, you need some foundation for them to stand on for us to evaluate. But if somebody's chosen a 20-year career and has become a key figure and a reputable figure and has a track record of success, and I don't mean success on paper, but I mean built projects that are still standing and functioning, why would we not evaluate that in their favor? That's my take. I just had to put that out there.
And I think putting words in John's mouth, he would say, well, you didn't know that you didn't know that you wanted to be a structural engineer until you took that first basic concrete testing lab as an undergraduate degree at 18 years old, you see. So the exposure of the undergraduate degree. But I started this meeting tonight saying that every case is an individual case, just like every project we start as an engineer, we evaluate it and determine what we need to do. And it's not necessarily because I took thermodynamics in 1968. You see? And I agree with what you just said, Ryan, and I agree with what John said. But it all comes down to a matter of consistency on our past actions and those going forward. But also, our profession is changing every day also. And there are many disciplines that didn't exist a couple of years ago. Does an undergraduate accredited program in computer engineering or science, those are extremely important elements in our daily life. And yet they don't need soil mechanics to be expert in that. So that program may be been accredited. We don't do discipline specific. So where are we going with that? You know, so the model law, the model law doesn't have a curriculum listed with it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
Yep, no, I'm sorry. Another analogy, do you want to, if you have a heart attack, do you want a heart surgeon who only knows about the heart and has nothing, very little knowledge about the kidney and all the other organs to be operating on you? Or do you want one that at least appreciates what's involved with the other organs, that knows how everything comes together?
John, let me put it a different way, okay? I'm a layman, I'm not an engineer. I'm out running a project, which I did, okay? I ran the finance end of it and the contract end of it. I have a problem in the field. I'm standing there with a group of guys. One's mechanical, one's in structural, and so forth, okay? I'm asking for a decision. I expect that these guys understand what each other's talking about, what the problem is. It may be a structural problem, it may be a mechanical problem, but somehow or other it knits together. And what decision they made, I'd expect them to have a basic understanding of what the other guy's talking about, because I'm going to turn in a direction and ask these guys, what's the best way to go? Who's got the best answer? Okay. And I expect you to have that background, which I did. I ran major projects doing exactly that. And we'd run into a problem and I turn around and look at these guys all standing there and saying, what's the problem? What's the solution? And everybody would come up with an answer. These guys had at least understand each other, what they were talking about.
So the undergraduate degree is extremely important in your opinion,
yes,
right? Brett, yes, sir. Okay.
But
However-
let me can I stay with Al's analogy there? So I agree with you, Al, because that's the real world that you just described. It's a group of people working together. In that conversation, your structural engineer is not going to be telling you how to design the electrical system for that building, right? He's going to let the electrical guy in there.
Somehow or other, that wire is coming through the building somewhere. It's coming through the foundation and all the rest of it. My structural guy said it's okay to come through there.
And the electrical guy is not going to tell you how to structurally build, right?
Correct.
Everybody's going to stay in their lane.
They've got to understand each other because, ultimately I'm the guy who's handing out the paycheck, period. Okay. I'm paying you to understand each other to build a building that's sound in my opinion,
But everybody's going to stay in their lane. In my mind,
you're staying in the lane, but at the same time, you're going to tell me if it's okay to put that wire through that area of the building.
Everybody's going to stay in their lane. And you as a leader of that, you're going to make sure you hire every, let's say, every member of that team with the right experience, with the right,
Sure.
with the right background. And at the end of the day, I look at the whole ethics side of this licensure. As an electrical engineer, you should not be designing the structural systems of that building, right? But your license allows you to. But you don't. You stay in your lane. And then the last component I would put on it is the commercial side of all business will kind of force you to stay in your lane, right? Because if you're an electrical engineer and you're starting to stamp structural drawings, at some point, either your insurer or your clients or somebody's going to say, you're out of your lane here. So I think there's some other bumpers involved here beyond the minimum competency standards that also come into play. Those are my 2 cents.
That's right.
Rob,
Go ahead, Bob.
as far as staying in your lane, it's fine, I think, with a large project as you and Al are talking about. In my from my business point of view, I'm not involved in huge projects, and the engineer who is like myself, for example, I don't do structures. I stay in my lane and I hire a structural engineer to design a retaining wall for me that I need to hold up my sanitary system. I could stamp the retaining wall and 10 years down the road when the shit's flowing down the hill, so to speak, I have a big problem. But we stay in our lane. And not always is a structural engineer involved in a project, and somebody with less experience may say, oh, gee, I can figure this out. I'm going to turn on my computer and I have the answers right here. There's a retaining wall and we'll go ahead and add it. And unless we become a discipline specific board, I think we need the breadth. Does passing the FE exam demonstrate that you have successfully established the breadth?
No.
That has some weight to it. But after that, you're not focused on anything except, I do site plans, I do sanitary designs, I do drainage, and that's my lane. I'm torn. I agree with both Rob and Ryan that we are exclude some very talented engineers from being licensed in the state, but we're not excluding them from practicing in the state. They just need the project engineer. If you're running a big job, Rob, and you have structural, electrical, mechanical engineers working under you, you are coordinating it because of your breadth of the disciplines and knowing who to turn to for certain issues. So I'm actually undecided on this issue. I think it's important to stay consistent. And unless we're becoming a discipline-specific board and state, I think we have to stay with the 4-year base for our knowledge. And
The discipline specific, would play into it, but we'd still want to have the breadth of understanding. And that's, I guess this debate is really to put it back on the table and make sure we're all comfortable with what we've been doing and going forward, be consistent. It may be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's necessary. And as John pointed out, and Bob has said it, and we've all recognized it, it doesn't prohibit anybody from practicing as a member of the team, so to speak, and putting forth their expertise, but we have to have a baseline.
My employee, I had an employee, a Connecticut PE, who's working for me, and he went to work for BL Engineering. And I see him every week. He still does work for me, and he lives right around the corner. So he and I meet every Saturday morning. And I say, what were you working on this week? And he say, well, gee, I was helping the team out in South Carolina, and we were doing plans down there. He's licensed in Connecticut, and he's doing designs based on the South Carolina sanitary code, and it's, you put these teams together, and it's he it's I don't know, I just don't have a answer for it, but they're working in South Carolina under a different license.
Right, but your expertise, his expertise is valuable to the team, and the engineer, the engineer licensed in Connecticut knows that individual or that talent is necessary for the project, and you have to seek out that talent, and that's the ethics part of it, and we all practice that way. So, as we continue our evaluation, should we memorialize this discussion and have a motion that this board can agree to, that we're going to continue to follow the policy that we've been judging every applicant by, which is to require the minimum of an ABET accredited engineering or technology curriculum
Or equivalent.
or equivalent.
Before we go to that, when we have NCEES evaluate it, and they go through and look at the undergraduate degree, look at the master's degree, and they just add up the credits and say this is equivalent, are we going to rely 100% on the NCEES evaluations?
If I may start the conversation, the answer is no, we have not, and we can't. This is what started, John, if I may, going to NCWS and saying, how are you doing this? There's several applications today that have an analysis by NCWS that the 49 credits in the master's program overrides, if you will, the deficiency in the science program. So you say you need a minimum of 48 engineering credits in your undergraduate program, and then you take them in your master's program, and suddenly you're qualified. That's, I think, is the problem, is it not, John, as you have been evaluating it?
You can get 48 credits with a physics degree, a master's in structures, and a PhD in structures because of the number of courses you need to take for both those graduate degrees. But does that give you breadth? No, especially since a lot of that credits may be in more research related and not specifically design. So you've got to look at these individually. I've got an NCEES evaluation where they gave the person credit for engineering economics. It's an engineering course, and I don't think that's appropriate.
No,
it certainly wouldn't. You can't use engineering economics course in an undergraduate degree to get credit in ABET for part of your engineering courses. It's a good course to have, but it's not engineering design. It
probably served Al very well in his position. Right.
Bob, I think it's a great question, Bob. And I just want to kind of piggyback on you a little bit. I think that's a great question. And I think we have been relying on that NCEES evaluation. I mean, every foreign degree, we rely on that evaluation. And that's where I'm concerned with that statement right there, that we're not going to be able to rely on the NCEES evaluation because that's not consistent. So we're going to be inconsistent with the way we evaluate American degrees versus foreign degrees. I have a little issue with that.
I understand what you're saying, but when I rely on the NCEES evaluation, it's their evaluation of a foreign undergraduate degree. Where I have problems with their evaluations when it's a physics degree and a master's. So we cannot possibly be able to evaluate foreign undergraduate engineering degrees. They can do that, and they do it well because they do it by program rather than by individual. So that you got to divide the two. It's when we have the science degree that their evaluations, we need to be more careful looking at what they do.
So
And
their
We will
evaluation of
tell
that,
an applicant to, when we get transcripts, we'll table it and tell them to get an NCEES review. And then I think we have a problem when it comes back equivalent. And we say, well, we disagree and you're in the same boat.
I
It
agree
presents
with
a
you.
problem to us.
I agree with you, Bob. I'm having trouble reconciling that myself.
I will admit I have a couple today that I have problems with. And when we discuss them, we'll see. But I try to look and see if there's breadth there. I try to look and see what's in the courses that they approve.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time then to apply the conversation to the applications and see where our discomfort is. Is that okay? We move forward now?
Yeah, did we ever
Because-
vote on Mormon?
I
Yes,
don't
we-
have it in my notes that we did. So the
It was
I believe your
motioned and
motion was to
seconded.
deny based on a lack of engineering degree. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a second to that motion?
I seconded it, I think.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to deny reciprocity for Gregory Mormon due to the lack of an engineering degree, consistent with our policy as that which we applied also today to Marcelo Tronci. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank
Hearing
you.
none, that motion carries. The last item on our regular agenda is,
Oh, Tony, real quick,
yes,
I'm gonna drop off. I have something I have to get to.
okay,
All right.
thank you, Brian. And Bob, you were in a little bit late, but there was no other surveying business. We did the minutes and we sent Susan back to work, and
Okay.
you may do the same, as did Ryan.
Hey, Tony, while we're
Sure.
on this page,
Yes, sir.
maybe we can go back to Pepler, right? Which
Okay, yeah,
we took no action. That way there you clean up this page.
right.
And again, at the end of this discussion, which I think is good, I don't see that we've changed our policy.
Correct.
which is
right
fine.
now.
So barring a change in our policy, based on our policy, Pepler does not meet our criteria with the Bachelor of Science in, a bachelor's in environmental science, ecosystems.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can resolve him in my mind. Which, based on our policy and his lack of undergraduate engineering degree, I would have to recommend denial.
Is that your motion?
That's my recommendation.
Yes, sir. Is there a second to the motion to deny reciprocity for Paul Pepler due to the lack of an engineering undergraduate qualifying engineering degree? Second. Thank you, John. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to deny Paul Pepler for reciprocity, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carried. So that reinforces our baseline. for a few other discussions we're going to have in a few minutes. The last item on our regular agenda, however, is Class 9 licenses for Barber through Seminsac. Variety of universities not issue the EIT license. There a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
Thank you,
Oh,
John. The second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Now, let's see how we can do this. We gotta make sure I covered everything. Bear with me a moment, please. Just let me get back to my notes. Okay. All right. All right. On our regular agenda, page 2, we had applicants for reconsideration of Class 4 license. All the engineers on the board reviewed them.
And this one, NCES said it was not equivalent. It
Well,
has
the-
a bachelor's physics degree with a master's in structures.
And we're talking about right now, Bryce.
Bryce, yeah, the first
Yes, sir.
one.
Right,
And I mean, NCES said it wasn't equivalent.
correct. And
Missing 5 hours of engineering. I question whether, yep.
right. This is an interesting one to me, because here is where Lehigh granted a master's, and they had 49 credits strong in structural. This individual, just for the record, is a unique individual in that he does kinetic structures. So you see things flying out of, the stage on Broadway, he's designing them. Do you want that individual licensed and be responsible for his work,
No,
or deny him because he doesn't have the undergraduate breadth?
he's a
But
specialist. He's very good at what he does, I'm sure, but he doesn't have the breadth. And he shouldn't be doing some of the stuff that you would expect a PE to do. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
Did the NCS evaluation take into account his masters or no?
Yes, yes.
It did. Okay.
And that's where they gave the credit for the 49, they recognized the 49 credits, but he had a bachelor's in physics. So there was definitely nothing in the bachelor's of physics that had the breadth of the engineering curriculum.
Other than soil mechanics course, he's all structures.
Right.
And as I say, I think NCES is being too lenient, and yet here they say it's not equivalent. So I think if they say it's not equivalent, that's a pretty good indication.
Right. So that's it. Would you like to make a motion?
I move that he be denied because he does not have an adequate four-year engineering degree as determined by NCEES.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Al. Lack of four-year equivalent as noted by, as
NCEES. Yep.
by NCEES. So it's been moved and seconded to deny Barton Bryce for reciprocity. Any further discussion? All those in favor to deny, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The next applicant in that list for reconsideration of denial was Samuel Drumheller. He had a Shepherd University BS in Science, Virginia Polytech, Master's in Civil Engineering, is licensed in Virginia. NCAAS evaluation determined not equivalent. He was missing 4 credits of engineering. You might argue that it was, a minimal deficiency, but nevertheless not equivalent. Made the same recommendation under Bryce. So is there a motion on Samuel Drumheller?
I want to add, I looked at the experience, and this is one I think the experience is definitely lacking. He does drop plans for calculations, total energy per unit volume of material, as well as the depth of improvement. So they're dropping stuff from cranes, and that's all he discusses. Other work included business development at conferences and other events. He does just drop points for cranes. It's such a limited experience thing. There's no breadth in that experience. And
Right.
that's not a requirement that you have breadth in experience, but I don't feel his experience is adequate. And then NCES with this one says he's lacking 4 hours of engineering. So I would make the same motion for him that we did the last one, that because his NCES has not said the degree is equivalent, we deny.
Right. And I noted in my review that Virginia Polytech, accepted 29 credits from the community college and applied that to their master's curriculum. So and again, I had to think about the description of the drop.
Yeah.
But every time I reread it, it was the same thing, cranes, but they were reclaiming areas, I guess, moving material. Anyway, I did do the same thing you did, looked and see how can you justify. But so is there a motion?
I did. I moved that it be denied for lack of an equivalent undergraduate engineering degree as determined by NCEES. And if Jane wants to note, we had questions about his limited experience.
Yeah, broad.
But it was
Second.
too specific.
Well, I don't think anywhere in our regulations it says that if your experience is too specific, it doesn't qualify. So I would question that.
Okay.
Because we can make another statement. I've seen some transcripts with some very, very poor grades. And nowhere in our policy or regulations does it say you have to have a minimum GPA, right? I've seen some very low grades in undergrad,
Okay.
but they passed. So
I'll accept. I'll agree with you. I just
yeah. And take it a step further, John. I've seen some applications like where they're very narrow in that electrical or computer area, right? And we let those go through. So that narrow thing, in my mind, is okay. But
I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay.
But I just
So is there a second to the motion from John to deny based on the lack of 4-year degree as noted by NCEES evaluation?
Second,
Is that you, Patty?
there's Richard.
Huh?
Richard.
Who was that? Oh, Richard. I wasn't looking up. I couldn't hear. Sorry. Denied by motion by John, seconded by Richard. All those in favor of the motion to deny Samuel Drumheller, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The next applicant was Thomas Stieff.
Why was it reconsidered? I found that one met the requirements.
I did
Yeah,
too,
what
so,
happened? Yeah, what happened is that they had the wrong date for his experience, so they added like 6 months of experience. So it used to be March of 25, and now they changed it to January 26. So I'll make a motion that that is acceptable, because I did look at that, and that's the reason why. And they went back and they changed his experience level.
Okay.
we all came to
I'll
the
make a
same
motion to
conclusion,
accept
luckily. I had him,
Yeah,
he had 2 years in Naval Academy, a master's in civil engineering from Drexel. They transferred some credits credits. He ended up summa cum laude from Drexel, and he's a structural engineer. So a second to Richard's motion to approve Thomas Steve for reciprocity.
I'll second.
it.
Thank you, John. All those in favor of the motion to approve Thomas Steve for reciprocity, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The last one that we have on that reconsideration list was Kenneth Balto. I devoted a page to each one of these, and that's what I said to Jane this morning. I was exhausted after reviewing these applications.
So was I.
It was mentally challenging to be so concerned and consistent. That's the problem.
consistency. Mm.
So on Kenneth Sbalto, he has a lot of field experience. He did some work for FEMA. He was in remedial construction, and environmental cleanups. There were large-scale developments from all gamuts of the job. For a while, he was teaching physics. I guess he was looking for work. Now he's in forensic engineering. But from Carnegie Mellon, he has a master's, and NCAAS came up with no deficiencies.
I disagree with this one.
And here
This
we
is the
go.
one I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. He's getting 2 credits for engineering economics, which is not right.
Yeah.
And they're using his science courses in the science degree, which are not engineering courses, but then they get 49.
Right. And my note to myself was they're using the master's to validate the undergraduate degree.
Yeah. I don't think he meets it. He doesn't have a 4-year engineering degree, and I don't think the way they did the credits makes any sense. 2 credits for engineering economics is not acceptable to me, and the undergraduate courses at Montclair are not acceptable.
Right. So when I took the transcript, and at the bottom over here, they have they counted, they carried over, what was it here? I think, was it 29? Anyway, when I added them up, I know exactly what courses they took: pre-calculus, physical geology, fundamentals of chemistry, calculus, physics. There was a geohydrology, but they did get into foundation from Montclair State, foundation design, structural geology, more calculus, more algebra, chemistry, geoscience, and differential equations. So
He does have his master's at Carnegie Mellon does have breadth. That is worth noting.
right. And so
But
I
it's
did-
just, I don't think he has enough.
when you went to the Carnegie program, and the evaluation by NCAAS is pretty thorough on where they were taking, credits. So they took all the calculus, they took the chemistry, they took the algebra, they took the physical science and physics and geology. Those were all 74 credits they brought across. And yet, when they got over to the specific engineering, they gave him 49 credits from Carnegie. So that's what I was trying to get to, was that an evaluation by taking the 49 credits from Carnegie, validating the deficiencies in the undergraduate from Montclair.
Right. He
So-
basically has 38 credits of engineering.
38.
Taking 38, if I don't count the Montclair science stuff and I don't count the engineering economics.
Oh, I
So
see.
I
But
would-
you're right. No,
So it goes down
Montclair.
to
Yeah, you're right. I see. So he had
30.
3, 6,
and 2.
he had 9 credits out of that they used on Montclair, right?
Right. And I take off the 2 engineering economics. I don't see how that gets evaluated. We would have been nailed when we were reviewed for accreditation at UConn if we had used engineering economics as a design course. Would have
Do we
been a
think-
serious flag.
Right. What we've seen in the past is that when you challenged NCAAS a few months ago, John, I believe it was because of what they did is they were looking to find a way to get up to the 48 credits, and they went back and grabbed a couple from the undergraduate and said, now we made it, but it doesn't justify the deficiencies in the actual undergraduate program by itself. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes.
So in this case, if you subtracted the 9 credits from Montclair, and then take out, what you're saying is you take out the economics ones.
You
So-
don't have to do that. You can just subtract the 9 and then it's
Yeah.
not adequate.
But you see, another thing that I was noticing on several of these evaluations, they list the several schools, right? Different programs. So when you're looking at this evaluation for Svalto, they have the comparability summary, and they say no deficiencies. So the math and science, they took 74 credits out of Montclair. They took them all and took all the math and science from Montclair and applied them. Therefore, that's why I came to this conclusion that they used the masters to justify or validate the undergraduate at Montclair. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's almost like working backwards. And then you
Right.
could say he had a qualifying undergraduate degree. So is that another way of looking at this? If you had a qualifying undergraduate degree and you took the exam after 4 years of experience, would you consider that his undergraduate degree was equivalent? So look at the other way on this one. You took your undergraduate program, it wasn't equivalent. You went and got a master's, you took other courses, and you apply them back to your undergraduate degree, and now you have a qualifying degree. I thought it was a good theory.
Yep.
I get an A+ for that. But it kind of makes sense to me. So that was my last note on my summary. In spite of whatever else he did along the way, which had a good broad experience, he worked a couple of years at GZA. He worked for FEMA doing specifications. Schlumberger, he did a lot of a lot of petroleum work, and then he goes into Carnegie Mellon and he gets a master's. And the NCAAS says no deficiencies, but I don't know whether they were evaluating the undergraduate degree. And I think that that's the way I read that evaluation. So you can accept that he had a breadth of experience by filling in the courses in his master's program. At which point I'd say he had good experience and he passed the exams. So I was recommending him for approval.
You were?
Yes, sir. By looking at it backwards.
I would recommend he not be approved for lack of engineering design courses.
Yes, sir. But if you went the other way and you wanted to go into your master's and you knew you were deficient in your undergraduate, then you'd say, well, take these courses. So if you took the courses in your master's program to validate or strengthen your undergraduate deficiencies, you would then say he has a breadth of experience, a breadth of education. Because in his Carnegie resume, whatever, fluid mechanics,
He has the breadth, but he doesn't have 48 credits of engineering design.
yeah, the Carnegie Mellon had, there's not a lot of, hydrology or soils in there. So whatever, that's the way I looked at it. That was my initial reaction. But you look at
Somebody
it,
else, let somebody else make a motion.
you look at it individually, it doesn't make it, yeah.
What are the others? Oh,
One of my jobs is to keep the conversation going. So
I'm having trouble with this, honestly, because by our policy, it's denied.
yeah.
I mean, and I just recommended denial on some similar cases,
mhm.
and to be consistent with our policy. So I'm having trouble with it. I'm having trouble with the ones I recommended for denial.
Right.
Well,
But
If-
we
if-
have to
if-
keep coming back to the consistency with the policy, guys. I think that until the legislature gives us some, some support, we have to keep going with it. And it's a tough one. But
I'll make a
it's
motion that we deny Mr. Salzko.
I missed what you said, Rich.
I'll make a motion that we deny Mr. Salzko.
I'll second.
And what was the reason, Richard?
But the reason is because he didn't have adequate engineering credits in terms of, the engineering geology and the soil mechanics from Montclair State were not necessarily of the caliber that we would like to see, and the engineering economics is not a design course.
Right.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion on the motion to deny Kenneth Volto reciprocity due to the lack of a qualifying undergraduate engineering degree? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Can I interrupt for a second? I just need to know, because NCS said he is equivalent and we're saying he's not, so what do I tell him? Like,
We
how do I?
We don't accept their evaluation because they have put science courses under design, specifically the 9 credits from Montclair. And we don't feel that engineering economics is a design course. So he's only got 38 credits of design by our evaluation.
And another thing on some of these evaluations, in a lot of them, they give you some some qualifiers in statements. And this particular printout, there weren't any. It was like one of the prefaces, maybe it's here at the back. Oh yeah, here it is. It's at the back in this one. It's the evaluation is prepared to provide engineering and surveying licensing boards with the required assessment of foreign qualifications to facilitate. They call them foreign qualifications. And it gives the board the right, to interpret. But they use that word foreign. I don't know why in that way. Okay, so why they make them the way they do has some bearing on how we interpret it. So the motion has been made and seconded. We've had discussion. Did we vote? I've lost track.
We voted.
Okay.
We did vote.
Okay. We move on to the next group.
Did we vote? I guess
We
we
said
did.
we voted.
Yes.
We voted.
Okay,
We
okay,
did, and then Jane asked, what do I tell him now that you voted?
right. Okay.
Hey, Tony, could I ask a question? And I don't, that comment about engineering economics doesn't apply as an engineering course.
It's a design course.
Design course.
It's an engineering course, but it's not a design. It's an important course. I'm not saying it's not important, but it is not engineering design. As I
But-
said, if we had tried, we did have a credit of engineering economics in our undergraduate program at UConn. If we had said that was design, it would have been a red flag.
Agreed with that, but when that heading in that section on NCS doesn't say engineering design, it says engineering, right? Are we adding the word design to our criteria, or is that real? Right?
You
Because
need 48 credits of design.
engineering
And that's
design,
part of an undergraduate program. And this, I'm assuming this is their design list.
I was trying to look at it, yeah, because it just says engineering at the top of
Yeah,
NCES.
that's the
So the
engineering. that's
criteria
the
is engineering design.
See, I think that's what I think NCES blew it because they should have had engineering design there. That's what they're counting for it. And those are not, that doesn't work.
Yeah,
There's a requirement for science courses, math courses, and there's a very specific requirement of 48 credits of engineering design. And this is the only design they list. The designs in this list. Those are mostly
Gotcha.
design courses, but there's just not enough.
and I'll just say one more thing about engineering economics. And I hear what you're saying, John, about engineering design, and we have all these different buckets to fill up with the NCS evaluation. But engineering economics is part of the design process, and it is there are questions on it on the PE exam.
Exactly. I
So
agree.
I don't know how that all fits into what bucket, but
I'm just,
okay.
this is my feeling, it does not.
I'm all set, Tony. I just wanted to
Okay, no,
get
we
that
gotta
thought
keep,
out on the table.
we gotta keep doing it, yeah. Gotta keep bringing it up every time. Like I said, every application is different and it makes you think of something else. Well, we have 3 more applications for reconsideration. For reconsideration of Class 1 exam credit Part 1. First applicant was Nicholas Beja. He has a Connecticut EIT. He's got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. He's been working in forensic engineering, but he doesn't have 4 years of experience.
It's 3 years. Why?
That's
I
it.
thought,
I know. It's like, why is it back here? But that's the answer. So is there a motion?
Does he have
to-
a master's?
No, not that I'm aware of. It didn't show up on my list.
Hang on.
I have him as he has a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Stevens Institute in May of 22.
yeah, I was surprised we were looking at this because it doesn't have the 4 years.
I mean, even if he has a master's, still doesn't make 4 years from May of 2022.
Yeah, it does.
He would, because he'd have the 3 years experience plus 1 for the masters. So in 25, he would have had the 4 years total if he had the masters. But
I didn't see a master's.
I didn't see it either in my packet. But Jane, if you want to make a quick check to make sure, but
But his undergrad degree was May of 2022, Tony.
yes, sir.
That's less
So-
than 4 years ago. So if he got
Yeah.
his master's degree for 1 year, we can't give him a double dip on a year.
No, that's
Okay.
correct. In that sense, you're absolutely right. Yes, Rob. Absolutely right. He would have been double dipping. Yes.
So no matter what,
He has a master's. Hold on. He got it in May of 2023.
Okay, it didn't end up in my packet, but I could have missed it, but
So he has to wait till May of 26 if that's the case.
regardless.
Yeah, he's double dipping then. I'll move that it be denied for lack of experience.
Of the 4 years.
For, well, 3 years with the masters. He doesn't, he can't double dip. So what's a better way of saying it?
well, that's the way we've always done it, and I think it's clear. And it's specified after the degree. So we're giving him the extra credit, but it's got to be after the degree.
Oh, yeah.
Have
You-
we,
you- I think that would say it has
Well,
to be
let's think
full-time.
about that. Let's think about it for 1 minute, though. He
If you're
graduates
working-
in 22. He graduates in 22. He goes back to work. I mean, he goes to school. Now he's at 23, and he's got 3 years of experience, but he's got a master's, so that's 4.
He had the experience is 223 to 226. That's 3 years. When did he get the master's, Jane?
No, he
I believe it
graduated.
was,
He
Go ahead.
graduated in 22, and he decided, oh yeah, 22. So he never
Did he
really
get a
quite gets it.
master's right away?
Yeah, it's a 23. So he gets it in 23. Jane
What's
said.
it?
yeah, May of 23.
So he
that would
starts
be-
working in 23, May of 23.
So
He goes to May of 25, and he's got 2 years.
No,
In
he's
May
got
of
May.
26, he'll have 3 plus a master's. So he still
Yeah,
has
right.
to work until May.
So he needs to
Did he
reapply in May.
indicate? Did he indicate his work experience?
He's in forensic engineering, is what I
Did he
noted.
give you dates?
Yes,
It's February 23 to February 26.
And when's the master's? If it's May, then he can't be double dipping. So he has to wait until May 26 to apply.
John, if he's
Yeah, I
working
guess-
if he's working
I
full
guess-
time, can he take
No,
get a master's?
no,
That's,
no. The way we word it is when an advanced degree in engineering has been awarded at an improved institution, education in residence may be considered as part of the experience requirement. So that means you got to be full-time resident, so you can't be working.
his master's,
So-
if he did a master's in 1 year, which would be May 22 to May 23, he couldn't have been working. He can't double dip.
Right, and
That
that's
is
what
a
we say. It has
full-time
to be-
effort there.
That is
Oh,
a
it is?
It
full-time.
has to be.
I did my
Okay.
master's in a year that way, but you can't be working and doing a full master's at the same time. You can spread the master's out, so you can do it part-time while you're working. But it
But
doesn't seem,
it's okay either way. He has his undergraduate degree. He goes and has his master's in May of 23.
right,
So as of May of 26, he'll have 3 years plus the master's. So he has to continue working until May of 26. Because then he'll have his 3 years after the degree, which is
Right.
his master's, so he can count it.
So
but you
I
could-
will make a motion that he be denied for lack of 3 years of experience following the education.
I'll second.
3 years following the master's.
Yes, okay, if you want to do it that way.
Well, that's at the end of his education. In order to get credit for the master's, he has to have completed it. He completed it in May of 23.
And the argument is he can't use some of the experience from the masters is if he's getting a credit, if he's getting a year credit for the masters.
Yeah, I'm not even counting his work experience during the
Right,
master's.
you can't get work experience
Right. He just has to work until the May of 26 in order to be reciprocity. So we just have to tell him lack of engineering experience following the degree, period. And who's going to second? Anybody want a second?
I seconded it.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
Rob.
All those in favor of the motion to deny? Where am I working
Aye.
here? What now? Nicholas Beja, reciprocity. No, wait a minute. What am I doing here? I'm in the wrong category here.
Class 1.
+1 credit part 1.
Credit, that's right. He's not eligible to take the exam in Connecticut because it doesn't have 4 years of experience following the degree. So deny Class 1 credit part 1 exam due to a lack of experience following the degree. Okay?
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion to deny, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Can I clarify one thing? So if he's working full-time, he can do a master's part-time?
Yes, but
And
he
then
can't get a year and a half for a year. Or whatever you wanted, however you want to do it.
Okay, so, because I have an employee who's an EIT, and he's considering taking a master's. And I'm requiring that he work for me full-time. So,
That's
So-
fine. There's nothing, we had part-time master's students
okay,
at
all
UConn.
right,
Their
gotta
experience
be-
while they're getting the masters, that's okay, as long as he has 3 years total of experience
right, okay,
and he has the degree.
yep, okay.
The next one was Kyoko.
I have another question. Sorry. Say somebody completed their 4-year degree, worked for a year, then went for their master's. Would you then say they needed 3 years after the master's? Or
2,
would you count the year in between the 2 degrees as experience?
the year in between the 2 degrees is fine. If he's got a bachelor's and he's working, it counts.
I think what the regulations, it recognizes the master's degree as 1 year of experience
Right.
in the experience column. I
But
think
this
that's what
guy,
it
That's
actually
all-
reads.
But that's
it just-
only if they attended school full time.
No,
In residence.
no.
In,
If you graduate with a bachelor's and you work full-time, say for 3 years, and in that time you get a master's part-time, then you meet your requirement. You have the master's plus 3 years. The overlap is the problem I'm having with this Sabalto, because he got his master's in only
Yeah.
1 year. That had to be full-time. Working on the master's, he can't count experience from that part. If you're doing the master's part-time, yeah, you can use, and you're working full-time, you can count the experience full-time.
But what if you're
Right.
working full-time and going for a full-time master's? People can do that.
No, that's
I mean,
a
They can,
that
they
no.
can, they can physically do that. I'm
No.
just saying, but
You have to be doing the master's part-time. And he got a master's in 1 year. That's a full-time. He's just not, it doesn't jive.
Well, here, I think what Patty's saying, John, is what I was describing before. In the case of Waldo, the math worked out. But I have an undergraduate degree. I work for 3 years, right? I take time off. And for a full year, I concentrate in residence, get my master's. Okay. Now, the day after I get the diploma, I have credit for my master's, plus I already worked 3 years. I've got my 4 years of experience. So the answer to Patty's question is you can work 3 years, stop, go to school for a year, stop, and have your 4 years experience, come and take the exam.
But we have approved somebody who has the bachelor's, goes to work full-time, does the master's part-time, one
At
or two
night, yeah.
parcels a semester at night.
Yep.
And they
Yes.
will at 3 years of experience, and if they have the master's at that point, then it's okay, because they've done the
Correct.
master's
Yeah.
part-time. I just don't
Yep.
feel he could do the master's part-time and work part-time. We're only talking about a few months.
You
Yeah.
No,
you
it-
mean,
I'm
We
not,
made the
I'm
right
not
decision on
saying-
both, though.
Yeah,
We-
I'm just
yeah.
saying, I think there are people that go to school full-time and also work full-time.
I
They
don't
can take-
believe that.
You could take a full load of courses, but you're not doing it when you're working 9 to 5 or whatever, 7 to 7 these days.
I think,
I'm not sure that's true. I think there are people that can do both.
Yeah, but
But-
it's what's in our regulations. I
Yeah.
think there's discussion on this. It's a matter of what we recognize. It's not a matter of what's possible.
If I
Okay.
I
did
want to
both.
pay all
Okay,
the
'cause-
benefit,
I did both.
yeah, but your discussion about work full time and go to school full time,
Yeah.
if the individual gives me 4 hours a day and I consider that full time, and he going to school the other 6 hours, that I guess you're overlapping full time student and full time work. But either way, if you're working full time and you're going to school somehow at night or in between, it's still part time. You're gonna end up with 3 years of experience, and somehow you finish your master's. We give you the 4 years total.
yeah,
You can do it at night. You can do it on Saturdays and Sundays. Your employer could give you half a day off to go to your classes and still pay your benefits. But regardless, it's still part time.
right,
Okay, I think there are situations where people can do both. And somebody, I don't remember who, said they did full-time work and
but-
full-time school.
I
in
agree.
engineering? In
Who
engineering,
was that?
Patty? Patty,
Hmm.
was it in
I thought it
engineering?
was somebody on the screen today.
Oh,
No.
Al said that.
I said it.
okay.
But a guy,
Okay.
in the case that we're discussing, I believe it's an individual has his diploma in hand from his undergraduate degree. He starts working, and the same day he starts working, he starts taking his master's degree program. So for 3 years, he's going to school at night and working full time. At the end of the 3 years, he's completed his master's. We're going to give him credit for having the master's plus the experience of 3 years, the way we've been doing it. It doesn't matter how and when you get it.
Well, for my own, because that's not the way I've been telling people. Because according to the statutes of the reg, it says in residence. So does in residence mean you're at the school, going to
Right.
school full time for
Full-time.
your master's?
Right.
Right.
A master's candidate at UConn who is doing it full-time is in residence. A master's candidate who is taking courses in the evening and doing it is part-time.
So the
All we're
regulations
saying-
only recognize in residence as experience?
Yes.
Yeah, so you would
No.
only in, so
No.
just so I'm clear, if you have to be in residence full time to get the credit. If you do it part time, you're not getting credit because you're already getting credit for working. Am I confused?
I would agree with that. That's the way I see it. And what do our regulations say?
I'm pretty sure that's
In
what it
residence.
says.
I think that's the way we've been actually looking at the applications, honestly.
If he
We
got
haven't
his
recognized that
master's,
part-time.
if he'd had his master's in 223, then the experience would be fine. But he has it later. Getting a 1-year master's, the only way to get a worthwhile master's is to do it full time. So he couldn't have been working too. This just doesn't add up. I say, let him refile or update the form in 2 months.
I think Volto is a little bit easier. Patty's question is confusing us all.
Yes.
Okay, because if you finish your undergraduate degree and you go to work for 3 years, you have 3 years of experience. If you stop and get your master's, as soon as you receive the diploma for your master's, you've got your credit of the master's, so you have 4 years experience. If you finish your undergraduate degree and you immediately start working on your master's and you work for 3 years, at the end of the 3 years, you've completed all your courses for your master's. Do you have the equivalent of 4 years?
I don't think
No,
so.
it's only in residence.
But what difference does the in residence mean? So it means you have to go to school for your master's full time in school and not be working.
Correct. And then you get 3 years of experience doing engineering. And that gives you your 4.
Oh, I've
So
been
if you're
working. I've been working full time and going to school at night. I've got my 4 year. I got my 3 years of experience. Plus, I get credit for being smarter than I was 3 years ago. I have an extra year of experience because I have a master's.
Right.
I don't see how it matters where you get it, when you get it. But I agree
Well,
with what
hey,
you,
hey,
if
Tony,
you're trying to.
you're working your way through it logically, but our regulations say what they say, right? I mean, we
Okay, so-
recognize that master's as in full-time in residence as 1 year of experience. It's
Okay.
not,
Correct.
it's not whether
So
it's
you have, in
possible
order to
or,
get credit for the extra year, you have to have taken it in residence, concentrated program.
Correct.
yeah,
Okay,
because I think that goes back to the double dip. I think we've had that conversation in the past. You can't double
We
dip
have.
again.
we have. So that's clarifying it. Because you're right, Rob, in the way it's been applied, if you can't double dip, meaning you can't be working and going to school because of the way it's written. Another thing that we would have to address then, because in many ways it doesn't make sense.
No, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's consistent with our other conversations today.
Yeah, if you stop, you're right. If
It's
you
a
stop
problem
working,
with our
Right,
regulations.
if you stop working just to go to school, you suddenly got dumber. You should have done it part-time. Anyway, especially if the employer was paying for it. He can double dip. All right, we still have made a decision on Beja and we made a decision on Volto. I think Volto was pretty clear.
Right.
Beja is it doesn't have 4 years following the degree, period.
Correct.
All right, now I think we can move on to Kyoko Kowalski.
Did we
BS
vote?
Huh?
Did we vote on Beja?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we did. I know
I
that.
would, I hopefully, I don't know if everybody agrees, but I would move to deny Karawaski for lack of a 4-year engineering degree.
And this is one where I wrote down, and at first I said, where was her EIT? And then Jane sent me the fact that she had the EIT. What I was writing in my notes here was there was an NCAAS evaluation and they said, well, what I wrote to myself is, I don't even know what they evaluated. Did they evaluate her physics degree and say it was good? Or I just don't know what happened. I can't figure it out.
She has 6 courses at UConn and 7 at UMass, which totals 13, which would be like 39 credits. But I also looked at the courses, the topics, and there's overlap. So you can't just do your master's and then go take some more courses at another program that are the same thing and get extra credit for it. There's overlap in these courses.
Right.
NCES is just counting credits, and they included a seminar, which I question whether that should have been included. But again, as I say, if you look at the course titles, they're the same sort of titles.
Right. So this is where I got confused. It has a Japanese physics in 92, UMass masters in 02, they had an evaluation, and that's why I said I don't know what was actually evaluated.
Right.
Once again, are they evaluating the master's and saying that qualifies the undergraduate? I'm just not
They did.
confused.
If you look in the list of courses, they did, Tony. Yeah, they
Yes.
list them all out, all
Yeah.
the different schools. But what also caught my attention on this one is the second page in the education and experience grid.
Yeah.
Take a look at that. Look at the comments to the far right, University of Massachusetts. It says, NCEES does not consider this university credit towards necessary engineering credit. Therefore, engineering credit shows missing total 19 hours. And then if you go down to the next degree, the NARA University, it said the same thing. So on one page, it says it's deficient per NCS, and then on the NCS evaluation, it says okay. So something's off on that part too.
So I think a simple thing is just to deny based on lack of a 4-year degree. But how
I'll
does that
second
make
that.
it for Jane? Jane's the one that has to deal with the applicant.
I'll second it, John, and I think we have to because we have several other applications today that are just like this. And we
Right.
denied them for the exact same reason.
So the motion is to deny due to lack of a qualifying undergraduate engineering degree.
Of a 4-year, how about saying a
Four-
4-year
four-
engineering
four-
degree?
Deny due to the lack of a qualifying 4-year undergraduate accredited degree.
Right.
Is there any further discussion? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion to deny, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
If I could just put my 2 cents where I run into issues is we ask them to get the evaluation. So they get the evaluation and it's equivalent. And then we say, sorry, it's not equivalent. So I need to,
When and if she calls, you can tell her that the evaluation indicates that it's not equivalent, and she can ask for a clarification if she prefers. That's what I would tell her verbally.
but it
Because Rob
says that it.
Rob
Sorry,
points
I'm-
out that there's an inconsistency in the discussion about the evaluation. Did I
Okay.
interpret
Can you
that
tell me
correct,
where
Rob?
that is?
Page 2, or well, in the education and experience grid. Under comments.
Page 2. On the evaluation? Why don't I see it?
No, page
Oh.
2 of the overall application. In that education and experience grid,
Okay.
item
Let me see if I
29.
can.
Could you just say the board requires a 4-year engineering degree and your record is not equivalent to that?
Okay. Oh, okay. I think those are her comments.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, because she filled that out, I believe. Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. That's been moved and voted. And then last applicant was Sylvia Tansky. She has a BS from Central Connecticut in 19. Been working with Fuss and O'Neill since 2020.
It looks fine. I don't see any problem. Why was this a reconsideration?
I don't know. I had written down okay, so
Yeah, I'll move approval.
Because just as FYI, the first time she applied, it was reviewed and she was lacking the 4 years of following the degree.
Okay,
Okay.
she has,
Is there a second to John's motion to approve Sylvia Tansky for credit part one?
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. That's okay. Beef was okay. Okay. Then the last item on our agenda today was some effort put forth by John to kind of summarize a letter or I guess an indication to our legislative liaison, CJ Stroud, that we're intent upon securing his input and support for starting the motion to get the legislature to help us update our statutes and regulations. And what John has done in this item C3 is to put forth the basics on this. But there are also a couple of others that probably should be thought about in other categories if we're going to keep any of them, such as technology degrees that are recognized with our NCEES umbrella. Any comments? Whatever we take some, careful time to add to, edit, whatever, we'd like to present it to CJ Stroud as, more or less a challenge. Put a cover letter saying, CJ, we need help from your department to move this through in some ways. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, it was easy for them to change the regulations overnight because when they want to now invoice for our registration every 2 years instead of every year. So they made that like overnight, no big deal. Change the regulations or whatever they changed. But when you're asking for support to make legislative changes, it's like, I don't know how to do that. But they indicated more than once in the last year, in several discussions I've had with the head of the DCP, Brian Califari, if I got his name correct, and CJ, who keeps coming to us, but there's no indication of when or how they intend to help. So this was intended as a start. We should add or subtract or edit individually so we don't lose the momentum and think about what else we need or should change in our current definitions. We've done it a number of times. John, I think, put the basics here. The bare minimum is in this, right, John? That's the idea. Here's the bare minimum starting point. You got to have this. But there are other cases or things that we have to clarify, such as our discussion just now about when the master's is accredited as a year of experience, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Did someone ask for this?
When a couple of weeks ago on a Friday, it would be I've lost track of my days, but last week was the 6th, so whatever, January 30th, CJ Stroud called and asked for a discussion, since we had already had a discussion about our need for them to help us with legislative, can't even say the word, but changing of our statutes. When he called and asked for a discussion, I anticipated that it was going to be relative to the legislation. So I asked John to participate in the meeting, which was done by Zoom. And then we were both disappointed to find out that there was only relative to changing the regulation to invoice for our registration on 2-year basis instead of every year. Then we broached the subject again about why can't you help us with our regulations and statute changes to update? He said, well, I can't do it now. Okay, when can you do it? Is that about right, John? Is that basically the way the
And
conversation went?
And he responded that we could write to legislature members, and that's what this was intended. But this would be attached to our previous document stating how we want the regulations changed.
Right. And we need them to help with that. We did it every time we submit it. There's dates involved and time frames and whatnot. They all have to be edited every year, to bring them up to date. But also the language that has to be done, and they have to. That department has to do that. We can't do it, and that's what this is about. Is sending to the representative senator's statute, it was actually the general law committee chairman was the idea.
Okay.
So
The
before we
reason why
send
I
it,
asked, the reason why I asked the emphasis for it, it's a short session this year,
yeah,
and stuff like this in the short session probably doesn't get looked at.
correct,
we
and that's
don't-
what he said. But the idea was to send it to the general law committee and say, look, you're another guy. Can you help us this time? We do need some support. We don't have money or budget. And it's to the benefit of the citizens to know that there's a consistency and it's all for safety. So we just have to stress that. But this was a start. And as he said, it has to be attached to the other that we have sitting on the file over here and send it.
Okay.
So any input that anybody on the board here can add to this to strengthen it, or Al, maybe you know how best to introduce it. If you know more about the inner workings than I do for sure, is how best to present it. Is there a cover letter? What do you say?
Again, I'm going to tell you, it's a short session.
Well, not now.
But
We know
somehow or
now
else-
this is right. But what happens in the next section? Whenever we talk to them, it's like, yeah. One time it's liquor. The next time it's whatever, drugs. Whatever it is, every year there's something more important. We agree. So do we just give it lip service again and try? We need some help on it. I just don't know the wording as to when can we get together and see if we can get some support for recognizing that these things need to be updated.
If you're asking me, you got to have someone that's going to champion this for you. That's the question: is who?
Well, that was the hope with the two names that he gave us that they might. That's what I was thinking, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. And the two names he gave you, who are they? As far as their rank in the legislature?
I'm looking. It'll take me a while.
Okay.
How about if we send them to you, Alan, see if you can shed some light on it and see if there's a process or a suggestion on methodology.
My problem is I've been out of that for such a long
Yeah.
time. I'm not sure I know anybody at this point.
Well, we don't either, but it's more a matter of procedure, and if, remember we were beaten down in the very beginning because the chairman of the general law committee had a nephew. Now we don't know who's involved, and who has interests. So we're, if the chairman of the general law committee has something more important to do in his mind, then he's not going to do anything with it. On the other hand, if the attorney general's office recognizes that they have a deficiency in their statutes, then they should work to help us figure out how to correct it. That's what I was naively thinking with the way it could work.
Yeah.
Okay,
Was
here
she
are the
meeting
two.
with the legislative liaison for DCP?
That's CJ Stroud is who
Okay.
came to us. And he gave us the names which John has right now.
Yep, the names are the two that he said you may want to reach out to are Representative Roland Lamar and Senator James Maroney, who are they're co-chairs of the General Law Committee regarding your concerns. So the
Okay.
draft up that I did would think it might go to those two people to see if that would help get us underway.
Any relation, Patty?
No.
Darn. When I saw those two names, I was just waiting for the opportunity to ask, but oh well.
Who in consumer protection is a liaison over for the legislature?
That's CJ, is it not, Jane?
CJ?
Yeah, CJ Stroud.
So he's not going to run it for you. He gave you a couple names to run it too.
Right.
Okay.
If he was
Sounds
gonna
like-
do it, he would have done it, he would have started the process back in October. It's past that point, the session started.
Yeah,
And
well,
so for
it-
DCP to go through the process at this point would be kind of backpedaling, but
well, what my suggestion is you start it for next October because again, a short session. There, you know,
Right.
other than the key financial issues, the stuff that you basically hear on the news, they're not going to touch much of anything else.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's what
I think that's what the impression was when we had the Zoom meeting with CJ, that we weren't going to get it this year. But this is to start the process for next year, I hope.
Okay, well, this is it's well written, John, and you know, basically to talk like to talk to CJ and find out what format he wants it in, and start prepping for October.
Okay. I have a contact with CJ. I'll broach that today and just say, look, we had our meeting this morning. We want to move forward. What's the format? You know, show us an example. Help us get it into the right hands for discussion.
Yeah.
That's his job, isn't it?
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what he does. But again, you know, I think he's dodging you because he knows that it's not going anywhere this year.
We know it's not going this year. We had that conversation. We agreed. We understood, and that's
Okay.
when he said, "Look, start it by giving it to these two people." But there's a format. You can't just say, "Oh, Jimmy, here, take a look at this. We want you to help us."
No, but
It needs
this,
an introduction.
yeah, and this clearly spells it out, you know, and I'd be, willing to help out, and, get a meet with CJ or what have you, where they start it off and see what kind of format and get it together. I obviously have a lot of time, so.
So if we offered you as a liaison from the board to work on the format, could you do that?
Sure.
So I'll introduce it to CJ. I'll copy you today and just
Okay.
say, here's what
Yep.
we've worked up so far. These are the things that are the basics that we need changed, but there are other aspects of the
Mhm.
statute that also need to be updated. And we'd like your guidance on how to get that started.
Okay, yeah, and like you say, copy me on it and give me
Yeah,
his
yeah.
information. I'll introduce myself and we'll at least start talking. I know he's busy right about now, but
Yeah.
again, the session goes out in April, I think, and we start talking about it now. Maybe we can get something to move something forward.
Okay. All right.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al. Is there any other new or old business on our agenda? Al?
Motion to motion to adjourn.
Second,
Sec-
it's a new one.
Thank you, Richard.
I'm reading this.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It
Okay.
was a
Okay.
Take care.
very,
Thanks.
very productive day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Tony?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Tony?
Yep.
You sent me a few emails after the last meeting, and I hate to
Yes.
tell you, I found them in the spam folder this
My-
week when I
my-
realized things that you send me